Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so that potential buyers can learn more about the business and the seller to help them make an informed buying decision. If you would like to learn more about this business, including details like what type of business it is, how much revenue and profit it makes, and all of the assets included with the business, simply visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for this business's listing number, which you can find in the video thumbnail and in the description. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. So without further ado, let's get into this interview. First up, let's learn a little bit about you. Can you tell us about your background in building and running online businesses?
So I started this business by registering it with the UK government in January 2014, having researched for, I think it was about 3 months, product ranges, knowing I wanted to sell on eBay, a sort of extension of me being a private seller, knowing eBay well. And I settled on MacBook cases. The reason was it was a competitive market, and if I could make a profit with that, then I knew the model would work. And it did. I can't remember how many years, but I did sell MacBook cases. And it didn't dawn on me, obviously, on the outset, because I never started with Amazon, but Amazon came a couple of months, I think it was, later. I was never an Amazon user and consumer. So anyway, I stumbled on the idea. I don't know why I didn't, but I started off doing FBM, fulfilled by merchant, where you dispatch yourself. And then I expanded by sending to Amazon and the FBA, which then increased sales quite significantly back then. And if I was to guesstimate, I think it was approximately turnover with the company was about 30% Amazon, 70% eBay. I think that was the approximate split. It's only in the last, I think, year and a half, maybe a bit longer, that Amazon has overtaken eBay now. Now I think it's like 65% Amazon, 40% eBay. And I'm getting a lot more sales on a smaller concentration of products on Amazon, which is great because you store less SKUs. I've trimmed the SKUs back over the last year just to make the whole business easier. There's no point having a SKU sat on a shelf for too long, even though it doesn't really go off. It's just sat there gathering dust, literally, in a warehouse. So I have been streamlining the business now, and this is where it's at today. So the goal of the whole business, when I set it out, because I was traveling, working as well back then. I was being employed, I was in oil and gas, but I wasn't getting to visit the places I wanted to see when I was out there because I had to work, I was employed. So the goal of this business is, after setting it up, I think within the first year, maybe year and a half, I achieved it. I started traveling. And for the last well over 6, maybe 7 years, I think I've officially not been living in the UK. We split our time with Asia in winter and summers in Greece on our boat, which is what I'm returning back to very shortly after this time frame. So the business now is very streamlined, more than it ever has been from the outset. It's stable because of the product choice I've chosen and the customers that are attracted and want these kind of products. And the maintenance is just extremely low. So it's a great time actually now, if someone takes it on, to learn the ropes. Because when it was at its height, which the turnover was about £370,000 during the COVID year, and the reason it wasn't higher is because, like a lot of sellers, we ran out of stock. So it could have potentially been higher as well, but I think we can all recognise that was a very unique period. But it's the sheer volume of listings that I had was over 500,000 at one point between America, Australia and UK. But this is when I had titanium motorcycle products and coffee products and lots of other things. Whereas now it's a very simple single course product range, but it can be built up again. I think with the experience I've got now, if I was going to expand that, it would be done more carefully and selectively.
Why are you selling the business now instead of keeping it and growing it further?
It's a personal decision. not because of the performance of the business. I'm 50 years of age and planning career change. So, subject to selling this business, I'm looking to retrain as a commercial pilot in general aviation, not airlines, to note. The days of me wearing a shirt and tie are long gone, but even with general aviation, the demands are high, and I need to be fully focused on one singular mission for the next 1 to 2 years, and I can't have any other distractions or constraints pulling me away from that. So if I sell a business, that is my direction, but I can't and won't consider doing both because the cost and the drain of training to be a pilot is so high that, it's one or the other.
Can you describe the amount and the type of work that you do on this business to maintain it?
Business runs mostly in maintenance mode, which day to day means checking on my laptop for the orders, emails, eBay messages. At most, it can be 5-10 minutes if there are things to action. It can be as little as 1 or 2 minutes just to flick through the screens. So it's very minimal workload as a general. Then you have quarterly VAT/tax returns for compliance to HMRC. That takes about an hour each period. The systems we use are integrated, so it's automated. When you've put your figures in and you submit and review, then it will tell you what it's going to either take or refund back to your bank. That part's relatively automated. Then we have inventory management for FBA, and I do that monthly. Again, doesn't take particularly long, maybe an hour, depending how many orders I'm creating, which using the software, again, is quite seamless, really. And to note on that, I do hold more stock at Amazon than Amazon actually request. And that's so I don't have to do these reviews more regular. If I left it up to Amazon, I'd be sending stock every week, if not more. So I tend to lean towards holding more stock at Amazon than they request. But I'm still well within inventory limits, I think roughly around 50%. So I've got plenty of storage space and it's my choice to do it that way. And then lastly is just monitoring of actual inventory. So to do that, I'll just, again, it's downloading reports, Google Sheets, and you just check what the sales are versus what stock we've got on. Basic forecasting says, might want to look at ordering this by this point. And to give an idea, it's low stress because I only order really about once a year to offset the costs of shipping. If I was to do it multiple times a year, then the shipping costs would eat into the cost of the product's total value, basically. And storing the stock in the UK is the cheapest I've ever found. I think for about 5 cubic meters, I'm paying £65 a month, which is very low, very efficient.
So if you were to keep this business, what are some of the ways you would try to grow it?
The easiest is geographic expansion with the current SKUs, but the operation is currently running smoothly and set up in the UK, and adding products also to that would be even easier. But for a bigger marketplace, straight away, obviously you've got the USA and Australia is significant also. You could look at taking the existing SKUs into those locations, selected ones. I have got still the contact details of the 3PLs that I used, so those can be considered if that is a practical decision or choice, geographically or otherwise. But the reason I trimmed it down was I was finding that the turnover versus profit reward ratio wasn't there for me. Again, this business was supposed to provide a lifestyle I wanted, which it has been doing and still is doing to this day. And when I was dealing in America and Australia, then the checks became a lot more frequent and demanding on body clock wise because you're dealing with completely different time zones. And it can be expanded back to those regions, either with staff, and that is more available than it was when I was doing it, or product ranges where maybe you don't sell on eBay in America and Australia, and you just focus on FBA only, period. There's multiple ways of approaching it, but obviously expanding either products and locations is the natural sort of growth path I'd be looking at doing again.
Right. And what would you say are the biggest risks with this business that buyers should be aware of?
Yeah, I'd say the risks are typical for any marketplace-based business, and it's nothing specific or unusual in this case. I'm reliant on a 3PL in the UK and the sales platforms, terms and conditions, which are eBay's and Amazon's. So while simplified operation, a lot of automation there, I'm still dependent on their terms and conditions. That being said, they're in it to make money, so they're not there to harm the sellers. We just have to adhere to their policies, which, quite frankly, welding rods don't come across as a problem for them. I'm not in a space where you're selling adult orientated products like knives, air rifles, things like that, which are usually quite restrictive. Fees will increase. It's a natural, just with inflation. So you will have to review pricing once a year or so, just to see. There's no point selling something if you're making a loss, unless you're doing a loss leader, to note. And I would say it's an advantage stroke disadvantage. I've trimmed the business down so that it's lean, mean, and profitable, but it's on a single range, which is welding rods. Now, if you wanted to mitigate risks, you could either increase the area you sell them, which has been discussed, like America or Australia, or you increase some new SKUs or ranges back into the UK system. And all that entails is finding them, ordering them, stocking them, listing them, selling them. The framework's already there. So adding or subtracting from that is doable, and hence I've done it. But now I'm at trimmed and simple point that it's at now.
How much support are you willing to offer the buyer who acquires this business?
Yeah, this one's simple to answer. As much as needed, really. I obviously want to make sure that somebody taking this on knows what they're doing. But if you were to see this operation I had running back during pre-COVID, so 2017-18, it would have been quite an operation to take on at that point. Now, it's very simple. So to learn the ropes shouldn't take very long at all to get a grasp of. And then depending what the intentions are, if it is to grow it, expand it, you'd be in full control and you would have a better understanding than I would 6 months later, as it would be your operation by that point. So I don't have a fixed cutoff in mind at all. My only constraint would be if I've started my pilot program, I won't be available on hand all the time. We'd have to maybe schedule calls for things, but I'd still have WhatsApp and so on. Just obviously my demands would be else. I would have demands elsewhere for portions of the day. That's all really.
Are you open to negotiating something like an earn-out agreement?
I would say in principle, yes. And I'd be open to discussing it, but I'd need to understand how it works. I've never worked with an earn-out structure before. And obviously I'd need to know how it would be structured and what protections are in place. But certainly open to it. Maybe a prospective buyer has done this before and can explain it and educate me.
Okay, final question. If you had to put yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why is your business a business worth buying?
So as you know, this business was registered in 2014. And that, I think, in the online terms, is a long history, good long standing. And it's been profitable every year, no losses. It's a stable market I go for, and I focus on products that are consistent as much as possible, with very slight seasonal variations. People will buy a little bit less around Christmas because they've got to obviously buy for the family. But I don't really focus on specific times of the year to gain more sales. Somebody else might have more of that sales-based experience than I do and I choose to do. I'm selling in a mature market and it's consistent. I've got good quality, good feedback, and a good number of repeat customers as well. There are a number of businesses on Empire because I've looked at them as potential buyers when looking to sell this business. And they've been around for 6 months, maybe up to 12, 24 months. And that is still, in my mind, a very young business. So unless you're very tuned into that space and can recognize and identify a real, whatever it is that drives you to consider it. So other spaces such as PPC, SEO, email marketing, anything AI, mobile apps, they're great, but they are, I think, a lot more challenges than this kind of typical grassroots e-commerce business. Again, I'm repeating myself, but mentioned before, this business was operating worldwide. It was my decision to reduce it for my lifestyle and for my well-being, as I was finding what I'd built was just too demanding on all the hour constraints. Now it's a complete opposite of that. So if a person does like the sound of this and we get to talk, etc., they could keep it lean as I'm doing now as a low maintenance quality business, or consider expanding it using the history or their own knowledge.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this business is still for sale, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for this business listing number, which you can find in the video thumbnail and description. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll find everything you need to know about this business. So, thanks for joining us. See you next time.